Welcome everyone. You're listening to and perhaps watching Calling the Audible on www.youtube.com/Flag Plus Football. I almost said
Flag Plus, not Flag Plus Football.
/Flag Plus. That's why I can never find our YouTube page.
/Flag Plus.
I'm going to keep going /. I'm a relic. We are in the Sportiera cage in lovely something Anjou. And speaking of something, I am joined by GM Calethris. Of course, you can follow him at GMCole44. How's it going, GM?
It's going good.
The resident knob turner, the technical director of Flag Plus Football, is giving us a hand, making us look as pretty as we always do. That is, of course, the Eagle at Master Control. You can follow him at Eagle.
We don't have that soundbite again.
We gotta get.
I'm working on it.
We gotta get a soundboard because you sound like a dying pigeon. It's pretty.
I think that was more like a.
No, dying pigeon. That's the one. And of course, speaking of dying pigeons, we're joined by our producer, Mo Khan. You can of course follow him at MoKhan19. Did I get it right for once?
Correct.
Nice.
Puzzles.
Nice. Nobody calls me that. All right.
I do though.
All right. Sounds good.
It's puzzling why he called you that.
You guys are all hurting my brain.
I just got here.
It's okay, GM. You hurt my brain all the time.
Just wait till we play each other.
No, stop pretending. Stop pretending you're a real team. But a team that was pretending to be a real team this week, PMS. It must not have been their time of month because they lost 45-19 against the Diablos. What's your take on Francois Martin as an FPF quarterback? I feel like I can never get a handle on him. We know he's a good quarterback outdoors, but he's struggled in FPF, but he has these weeks like this.
I don't know if it's a question of him having these weeks like this or both figuratively and literally, pardon my swag, dropping the ball. I feel like they had all the tools necessary to succeed. They had a good knowledge of the opponent that they were playing, what they were going to do. It's like they went into this game knowing what their opponent were going to do and let it happen. So I don't know if it's a question of Francois being a great quarterback or living up to the hype, or a little bit more about, pardon my swag, not being the team we thought they were right around now.
We'll talk a little bit later in the show about the top quarterbacks in the division. We'll see if Francois Martin makes the cut for either of us. When everyone is there, they feature a roster that includes J.D. Jolly, Georges Livoyer, Louis Beijing. How do they stack up as a top-tier Division D receiving corps?
No,
not at all?
I don't think so. I think that your receiving core is only as good as your quarterback will lead you. First of all, we'll get on this a little bit more later when we're talking about top players, but I feel like the ball is really forced to Beijing more often than it isn't. Mm-hmm. And bearing in mind the experience that you have with J.D. Joly, Georges Livoyer when he's there, but seeing an offense that primarily consists of Beijing with Joly sitting on the bench at times when you need those big plays, back when PMS were leading the game early on, it just didn't happen. And it's almost as if PMS were in control of this game and adjusted and lost it.
That's fair. Well, do you think that kind of inconsistency will plague them the rest of the way out? PMS,
without a doubt, I think when they start to face deeper teams than Diablos, if they're having trouble with a team like Diablos, they're in a world of pain right now. It does also have to do with the fact that the core of this team are outgrowing their rankings right now. So Brad Evans has mentioned that a little bit of frustration is that the guys that he brings in, that they do well one season, they lose because their ratings inflate a little bit. Isaiah Lard, John Grizzly, Pat Pilot, who is still on the team, but Brian Joseph was on this team in the past as well. Another name.
But that's a function of the new FPF.
Yeah, it is the function of the new FPF.
You need to be able to. You need to be able to play up there with your teammates as well,
or calculate properly.
Or learn how to use the cap in your favor.
Or get new players every season.
As a player for Show Me Your TDs, the team that I'm not happy that I don't get a chance to play against is These Nuts, because Show Me Your TDs versus These Nuts would be the greatest greatest team names playing against each other. But we have These Nuts.
Gentlemen, J.D. Joly, he has 3 INT so far this year. He's halfway to his career high of 6, which he established last season with the Dragons.
Well, he's going to hit it and he's going to break it without a doubt.
And JD's a fantastic defender.
Big physical body, great field awareness, solid player. He didn't make my list of defensive players to watch,
which we'll discuss
but he was
later.
An honorary mention.
So I guess the honorary mentions then. Nice.
It is for him.
Just catching balls from Simon Dagenet are called receptions and not interceptions, Mo. Just pointing that out there.
Or it's not a drop ball.
So these nuts beating Les Aigles 50-30. These nuts have hit the ground running. Have they been tested? See what I did there? Have they been tested yet? However, as they got to start the season against two new teams.
I don't think it matters if they've been tested in D or not. Dave Daou has that higher Division C experience quarterbacking there. So he's facing those defenses in C and carries that down with him into D. He has a solid core of players, very, very underrated. We'll mention more of them later. These are a few. It's funny, we've chosen teams that have players that I'm very high on. We will mention them, so if you're part of D's Nuts or curious about them, we'll talk about them later, salted or otherwise.
So to me, the first challenge comes in the third week when they play Backyard Bullies. So you think they'll come out?
I'm not convinced that Backyard Bullies will be the first test for D's Nuts because of the rushing prowess of Devin Daou. The way this team dynamic is, they need to face up against a QB that will go score for score with them, who will air it out just as much as they do, not a running quarterback, because of the fact that Devin Daou comes in as a great rusher, comes in full speed, is very, very good at containing mobile QBs.
So let's go down the list a little bit for them. They play Backyard Bully, so you don't see it there. Pardon my swag. Not yet, not quite yet.
I'm waiting for you to continue, and I will mention.
Because you shook your head. So for those of us, for those listening to the show or watching in Braille. So you say no?
I say no, not yet.
No? Okay, so what about Les Affreux with Joe Lemieux at quarterback?
Les Affreux, Joe Lemieux has that ability, but he's turning the ball over far too much. You can tell it's been a while since he's played a full season in FPF.
The Blue Devs. Not yet.
Gianfranco Ronaldo does like to look deep, but he's not going to go score for score with them.
Jägerbaum.
Yes, because Jägerbaum will be their first test. Simon Duchesne is that good mix of being able to buy time with his feet, but still being able to find his receivers deep and short as well.
And they do end the season with the last 4 games being his Jägerbaum, Tomahawk Nightmare, Sticky Hands, and Warhawks.
So
that's the test.
That's the test,
that's
exactly.
The gauntlet.
Especially with Warhawks finishing it up.
If they can come out with a record of more than 500 against these teams, I think this is the coming out party.
Four, so 2 out of 4.
Yeah, if they can win 2 out of the 4, or more than 2 out of 4 games, then I think we can really look at this team and say, yes, this is absolutely the front runner to win the division.
I already think they're one of them, to be honest.
But I think that would separate them from the pack.
A little side note for you guys for D's Nuts. Joel Malkin and Devin Daou are, for touchdowns at least, 5 TDs, 4 TDs respectively speaking here. Both are in top 5 of Div D receiving for touchdowns.
So would you say you're impressed by D's Nuts?
They got big nuts.
Absolutely. Les Aigles are putting up points but struggling on defense. This is common for new teams. Let's give them a tourniquet, stop the bleeding GM, give them 3 recommendations.
I think 3 recommendations right now, as much as it gave them variance in their week 2 game, stay away from the halfback. It's something that a lot of teams, in fact all of the teams, outgrow in FPF within weeks, not seasons. However, they did adjust well. They gave up a lot of points early on to D's Nuts and then adjusted well in the second half. So I think they're definitely on the right track. And the fact that they're a brand new team that registered in D instead of E and are still doing decently, I think they're already head and shoulders above what we expected of them.
Fair. How about on offense? We see that they've been spreading the ball around. Do they need to have that one target, or do you think they'll be more effective this way?
With so many teams in Division D being reliant on 1 or 2 players, there will always be, especially in Division D, there will always be 1 or 2 weak links on defense. If you're able to effectively read every player on the field and spread the ball, eventually you're going to key in on that mismatch, and that's when you start to exploit. Having the ability to find 5 different receivers on the field rather than forcing it to 1 or 2 will be huge for them, and it'll be the defining factor in being competitive. And
the team, one team that I think typifies that is Global Gym Purple Cobras. They win at 20. I have here 24 to 18 over 5-star. I was going to say 24 to 5. That
Very
didn't make any
great
sense.
game.
Yeah, you were there for that game, GM. Let's take a look at 5-star. How good are they really? Like, what are realistic expectations for this team?
I think we all went into this seeing Jordan Moses, really just the running halfback for no regard. We didn't expect much. He's a first-time QB. However, that being said, he spends a lot more time in the pocket than he does buying time. He knows where his receivers are going to be. Even though they're a brand new team, he has that familiarity with them, and they're already off to a good start, in my opinion. They have a good core of players. They have smart players who are very aware. I think that we're going to see a little bit more of them as they start to get a feel for the division.
Slow Khan, I've seen 5-star play a couple times this season. They seem to me to be a little bit repetitive on offense. Do you think they will struggle when they play against some of the top tier defenses?
No, I saw them play on Wednesday, I believe, or Tuesday. Sorry, Tuesday. My apologies. Last track of days here. If the quarterback play comes up big for them, they have players that have had higher division experience. If they're able to put that together, and if the quarterback play, that's going to be key for them.
They need to back him up as well. I mean, his receivers, especially the ones with experience, need to back him up by actually catching the ball. You see drops by higher division players like Kendall Myers who are making drops that they shouldn't be dropping. Really, especially in Division D, you need to set that example for the other players, really play up to the potential that you're capable of.
Jordan Moses was referring to.
The quarterback, yes.
Quarterback, yes.
Yeah. For this game, Danny McPhee was on the sideline with a headset.
It was amazing.
Posing as,
I was waiting for him to throw a challenge flag.
Yeah, I think we're not that far away in FPF. Just a matter of time.
Well, look at Steve Liberopoulos for Game Changers. He was their de facto coach as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's not forget about the original coach for the Dirty Birds.
Yeah, Joe Birds.
Joe Birds, indeed.
I met Joe Birds. There's a photo of me with him.
And we have this team being quarterbacked by Maiorino. They're running a very 2.5 Dan system. We've seen receivers go to die in that system. The big one, obviously, is Simon Lahaye, a guy who we're familiar with. We thought would be successful. Didn't really work out to the same level we thought it would. But is Alex Joltopov the ideal receiver for this type of offense?
Without a doubt. He's someone who comes in. You can put him at snap. You can put him at wideout. You can put him at slot. He's going to make plays for you. You're taking away the players I have paired up for later on, so I'm going to mention him a little bit more, but I think that he is a good player for the system. Actually, I think both their offseason the Core's offseason additions in Division C with Matt Rupsick and in Division D with Alex Joltopov, they're both great for the system. I know it's neither here nor there because it's Division C and not Division D, but I spoke to Matt Rupsick on the sidelines after the 2.5 Dans game, which is very similar football, very similar style on defense. Said it's great to play on because the guys all trust each other on defense. They know where they're going to be, and on offense, it's just they run the same sort of offensive plays. It's frustrating for defenses to play against, but great for receivers.
Alex Joltopov, his career high was in spring 2014 with the Gingers. 32 catches, 613, and 12 TDs.
I believe he was receiver of the year or two-way of the year that
yes,
season.
He was receiver.
Receiver.
Just got to point out, for the Purple Cobra, after playing them in week 1, maybe about 10 plays in, I knew their entire playbook. So if you get any teams that have a really good defensive squad, you're going to need to change up your playbook a lot because it's very predictable.
Thank you, Eagle, for that humble brag.
Yeah, I was going to say, Eagle patting himself on the back. I'm happy you feel better about yourself now.
No, but you know what?
I'm glad you took the segment and made it about you.
He's actually trying to be genuine with this, and we're crapping.
I actually am, because when teams start off and they have new players and everything, you keep your playbooks very simple. So as the team evolves, you're going to need to add more plays into that playbook to be able to improve.
All right, we're going to try and get the mic away from Eagle, and when we do, we'll come back from break. Until then, GM, enjoy the break.
Calling the Audible has been brought to you by the English Montreal School Board's DEAL program. Distance education for all learners will allow you to obtain your high school diploma or prerequisites for CEGEP or vocational studies from the comfort of your own home. It's never too late to go back to school. Learn anywhere at your own pace and get your diploma. Call 514-788-5937 for information or visit www.distanted.ca for more details.
Welcome back, everyone. You were listening to and perhaps watching Calling the Audible, the flagship show, the highest rated FPF podcast with my homie, Jim Calethris.
Apparently, it's being broadcast in Braille.
It is.
If Mocon asked me what I learned this week, it's being broadcast in Braille.
And I'm pretty sure if you press the SAP button, I might be speaking Spanish.
Or French.
Not with any luck.
SAP is an abbreviation for Spanish audio something.
Yeah.
So, yes.
I don't want to say what the P stands for. If you want to follow GM to find out what the P stands for, you can follow him at GMCole44. If you want to tweet the show live, you can tweet us at EagleFPF, and Eagle will do his best to get the information to us. Most likely through our producer, who is the slow con himself. He can be followed at Mocon19. We are in the Sportera cage. Well, remember, if it's in the game, it's in the cage. If you haven't got your jerseys yet, by the way, Sportera is the official suppliers of jerseys and FPF swag, as demonstrated by GM Calethris for those of you watching live. Eagle just pointed at Mo?
The camera.
Oh,
yes.
pointed at the camera. Never mind. I got to learn how this setup works. It's so different.
The tablecloth.
Yeah, we're getting classy up in here. That means we can eat lobster on the set. That's what that means.
You know we'll do it, right?
Didn't we have this tablecloth last week?
No, we did not.
No, we did not. And we also had 3 tables, not 4.
We also had like different mic stands. It was a whole different mess. So making improvements.
We
on
also
a
had
weekly
no
basis.
mic for me.
Yeah, and that's actually a downgrade. So GM, I asked a question about some of the best players in this division. I broke it down to quarterback, the most disruptive defenders, the best receivers. So I want to talk about some of the guys, as well as get your opinions on some other guys that I perhaps haven't thought of. And then I want to know who you would build your team around, not including guys from your team
Because
currently.
if you asked me, and I had the opportunity, it would be formerly teamless. Just my roster. I'm very, very happy with this team.
Yeah, and they're going to be overrated as always. I know. That's what we've been saying from the beginning. But I'm saying,
Well, that's how it works. I mentioned a player's name, and their rating goes up by 5 points.
Pretty much. That's actually how it happens. If you work for the media, it makes it very hard to build teams, by the way. Let's start at quarterback. Some of the guys I've sort of tagged here, and Mo, feel free to jump in if you come up with guys as well. Fred Millette, who sounds like he has a backup NFL quarterback name on his own. JF Marquis, Dave Daou, Alex Labonte, and John Brown. First of all, who stands out of these guys? Any notables? And then anyone else you'd like to draw attention to?
Alexi Labonte, thus far, of those 4, has not thrown an interception, along with John Brown, but I'm not going to pick him because he's irrelevant. Alexi Labonte has yet to throw an interception, however, is at the lower end of the touchdowns thrown by these QBs, not counting John Brown as well, due to relevance. Of those, I'm the biggest fan thus far of Fred Millette due to mechanics. However, being able to work with the team he has and adapting in games would be Dave Daou. JF Marquis, I think more just because he's one of the perennial favorites. I'm not as sold on him because there will be games where he has that inevitable meltdown. However, he is still a top-tier quarterback as well.
Makes a lot of sense.
Well, once you get to Fred Millette in terms of his stats, some funny stats to look at with what he's done as a quarterback if you want to build your franchise around him.
All right, what do you got, Mo?
Hey, Mo, why don't you...
Mo, why don't you
tell us
Does
what
he
the
have
stats,
more
Mo?
passing touchdowns now than he did in Div B?
Well, here's the thing, though, right? His best years came with the Bruisers in winter 2013 and 2014, where he combined for 67 TDs, 26 INTs, and over 2,700 yards passing.
Yes.
Whereas after that, though, it's been very minuscule production with Genie 3D, Certified Fly Guys when they had their messy season last spring. After that, he's combined for literally 30 touchdowns.
Between those 3 seasons.
Yeah.
That's been rough, absolutely. And I mean, he's dropped down, so hopefully he's found a home. I had to build a team. And not because I expect playoff wins, but because I'm a snapper and I like getting the ball, I choose John Brown. John Brown loves throwing to the snapper.
Had a sub come in this week, Marty Friedman. Marty, never having played with
Not
John
of
before.
Megadeth fame, of course.
Yeah, Marty came in having never played with John, left the game with 8 catches.
There we go. Anyone else that I didn't mention? Start with you, Mo. Anyone that comes to mind?
Well, looking at it so far from what I've seen in Div D up till now, I think it's still early in this process. I know we like to do this whole quarterback top 5 or franchise builder right now. I think if you ask me this question, saying week 6, week 7, I think I can have a more of a definitive answer who I think could be a franchise builder if you want to build your franchise around that quarterback.
That's fair. GM.
That is the fair assessment as well. I don't have anyone else besides this. It's going to become more apparent, as Mo has mentioned, as the season starts to unfold. We'll see who's been a product of their schedule and who will really separate. We might even see QBs that have gone 0-2 or 1-1 really stand out and surpass these four thus far, these five.
Absolutely. And again, a lot of it's the teams they're playing with too. Like a guy that perennially would have been noted with a much weaker roster this season is, for example, Gianfranco Ronaldo, a guy who lower divisions has had amazing seasons. Who you might build a roster around. He's just not getting the press right now because he's playing with some friends and a new
co-workers.
team. Absolutely. The most disruptive defenders, and I put in some rushers here. I put in some DBs. Devin Daou, Daniel Belfoy, Jonathan Chevalier, all rushers, all very disruptive to start with. Kwesi Gordon-Mall with I believe 3 interceptions already.
2 for 6.
Two of them for 6 exactly, and Sammy Beg as well. What are your
the ones that you haven't mentioned, because I feel like it's going to be redundant. Alex Joltepuff, great, really physical, really disruptive defender. Danny Allward, who has limbs for days. He can just stretch out.
On offense, he's the master of the push-off.
Yeah. Cornelius Furley, a player who doesn't
Conan O'Brien himself.
Yeah, a player who doesn't have the stats as much to back it up, but that's because QB simply will not throw to his side. It's so blatantly covered, you might as well disregard that side completely. You mentioned Sammy Beg, Jeremy Anderson as well, two-way player of the year in higher divisions, absolutely fantastic. Disruptive defender, reads the ball really well. You can put him at rusher, you can put him at corner, you can put him at safety. Vadim Cherniak, leading in passes defended right now, has a ton of interceptions as well. Another player who doesn't have the stats to back it up, but who I'm a firm believer in due to his physicality, due to size, JFFP, Jean-François Fortier-Poulin of Dagenet fame. He plays on Bromigos, as the blank stare in your face is enlightening me. And Mark Rinaldi of These Nuts has great field knowledge, very, very physical, but will jump those passes as needed. A couple others. Another one I have as an honorable mention, but I'd need to see him a little bit more. Tevin Nichols, one game he's played, 2 interceptions, read the ball perfectly in both of them, has great field awareness. I'd like to see more of him.
I agree. I kept him off my list for the same reason. I'd like to see him more. GM, so who would you build your franchise around? On the defensive side of the ball.
Defensive side of the ball, definitely considering players I've played with in the past, Cherniak as well as Bryden Streeter. I'm going to mention him on the receivers as well. He's just as good as a defender as he is a receiver. Former defensive player of the year. Jules Depuff, Furley. You mentioned Dan Belfray. I would bring him in as my rusher. Jeremy Anderson. That's my defense right there.
One guy the cornerstone start with. Yeah.
I thought it was picking a whole defense.
Well, you listed the entire top 25.
Yeah, you listed every player in FBF in Division D.
So aside from anyone I play with, I'm going to go with...
Like your number 1 draft pick, let's say, if you're starting to picking for your defense.
Jeremy Anderson.
I'm going to go ahead with Daniel Belfoy. For me, he's just been one of the most disruptive rushers I've played against. He's got very good production season in, season out. And I always struggle to find rushers. So for me personally, it's got to be Dan Belfoy.
The second most important position in FPF.
Yeah, I see that the 3 most important positions all happen down the middle, with quarterback, snapper, rusher, in almost interchangeable order, but obviously quarterback being the most important. Mo, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think Cherniak's had a good year so far. Seeing him play with your team, Hot Boys Hotline.
He's pointing at Eagle and not at me, as it
For
is
those
my
watching
former
Braille.
team.
Yes, as in your team. Look, I think Cherniak's a guy to look at. Look, no one's mentioned this name, Jakub Telemak. If he's healthy, that's Terry Tam's boy, of course. For those who don't know, he plays for Wolfpack. If he's healthy, and that's the thing, if he's healthy, he's an excellent defensive player, has great range out there. He could be a guy you can build upon, given that he's played more of the lower divisions.
I do agree with that as well. You have a backup quarterback, you have a center. He's someone who can actually play anywhere.
Fair. Now, given that his name is Telemak, does that mean he can mac from very far away? So, receiver of the not receiver of the year, but rather some of the top receivers thus far, and potential cornerstones for your offense. Some of the guys I pointed out were Joel Malkin, as you mentioned.
Without a doubt.
Earlier.
Receiver for Concordia. Great hands, great field knowledge. Has the ability to separate from his defenders at a moment's notice.
And really leading these nuts.
Got him. This is going to get old.
Anthony Lapointe of Warhawks, Matt Brown of Hooligans, Felix Gilardo of Sticky Hands, and Alex Hollowak at the sniper position from Bronx Bombers.
So players that you did not mention, because I had a few that overlapped there. Once again, Bryden Streeter, a player who's really evolving in FPF. He's magnificent talent. You know that there's nowhere to go but improvement with him. I think it would be incredible to see someone who could really take advantage of his speed and his ability to create separation. Another player on Warhawks that you didn't mention, well, there's two actually. Laurent Ladouceur, top tier talent.
I was trying to choose one for team.
Played for Team Quebec. Raphael Ducalapalme as well. On your team, since you're not going to mention them, but I will. Anthony Adona, fantastic player, really
Got the same
underrated.
rating as Peas.
Oh,
right?
I'm not sure what's worse in that situation. Erhan Kip, after taking a season off, is.
I refuse to call him by his real name. Erhan Kip.
He's back. He's just as incredible as ever.
And he runs like a bull. With the ball in his hands, I don't want to flag him.
And the other two players who received votes for me, but I don't think are there yet, Louis Bégin, who I mentioned earlier, just because he's such a the Diablos are so reliant on him. He's such a product of that offense. And male or female, it doesn't matter. Audrey Desjardins is fantastic. She's a great receiver, runs deep passes, makes those catches. Someone we're going to have to look at in the future, and not just because of her gender.
Absolutely.
One player I will give you, your teammate, Khalil Kerr.
Starting running back at Vanier.
Young player, continues to grow, and once he figures out this league, he's going to be a dominant force.
I would definitely have to agree with you, since I haven't been choosing my own players, but definitely a great find, someone who was just coming into the league.
Who's definitely higher than his ranking that was given to him back in May.
Well,
you'll have to take that up with the ranking staff, which was not me.
No, but to be fair, there's nothing wrong with it. He's a new player. He got a new player ranking. We don't know how tackle players will translate to league, so I'm okay with his ranking. That being said, what I will say is Khalil is an amazing raw talent. For me, I need to see him develop more as a route runner and work within a system. But I have a similar feeling with Kwesi Gordon Mall. I think these two pieces, if they can become more disciplined players, will be dominant players in FPL.
Yeah, you often see that, not to give anything away from the FFFT offense, but you often see sometimes where the two of them will deviate from their routes more often than not, because it was open, and that's something that we're trying to reel in and work on. They also lack height.
Yes, that's true. Well, they're running backs, right? That's kind of the thing.
I have 3 running backs on my team.
It's true. For me, looking at who to build a team around, I'm a big Alex Hollowak fan.
Yes, I as well. You already mentioned him.
All over the place. He gives you also backup quarterback. He's also better.
He's not eligible as quarterback in Div D. However, he can give that input in the huddle. He knows how to call plays. He knows what works and can develop a new quarterback like James Nowakowski.
I agree. GM, final thoughts?
I learned that time flies when you're really having fun.
I didn't really ask you what you learned. I asked for your final thoughts.
Final thoughts.
Time flies.
I feel. I'm thinking right now that time flies, and I wish we had an hour to do this.
That's right. We used to have an hour to do these shows, and they took forever.
That's because it wasn't you and I.
Especially in the smoke.
That's true. No, that's pretty much it.
Shots fired.
That's pretty much it for this show. It's going up in flames, up in smoke, so to speak.
Coast to coast.
We're going from side to side. Thank you, GM. Thank you, Eagles, for all the work you've done. Before I sign off, however, I want to go for one this week. Am I going for one? Going for two? Remember, it's the upcoming game of the week. Next week, you'll get to vote on your Division D game of the week. For now, however, please feel free to vote in Division E. I highly recommend it. It's a great way to get involved. Choose the teams that you want to watch, because we actually get a remarkable amount of hits in these games.
Just for new viewers, what exactly is Game of the Week?
Game of the Week is the game that we highlight in a specific week. If it sounds like it exactly is the title, that's because it exactly is the title implies.
And by highlight, we mean Ryan Aridi.
Ryan Aridi, our resident photo taker when it's not me, rusher extraordinaire, films the game every week. It's voted on in advance, due largely to his availabilities of what he can film that week when he's not playing, but also the top tier teams. So right now you see of the votes in Division E, you see the 2-0 teams are one of the polls. You see a couple of 1-1 teams as well. It's voting on what you think is going to be the best game. It's filmed, it's edited, music is added to it, and it's posted to flagplusfootball.com. You can watch them. You can watch yourself catch touchdowns or drop them, as the case may be for me.
Only was game of the week. But honestly, it's a lot of fun. So definitely look forward to it for next week. But for now, do vote for Division E game of the week.
And a little added spice to it this year. Ray Starwar will be giving his post-game commentary on the game of the week.
Oh, that's awesome. That's excellent.
He's a stone's throw away right now. I can see him talking, but he can't hear us.
Awesome. So we'll thank Ray for trying to hear us. But we'll thank you, GM, for joining me. Thank you, Eagle, for all the work you've done. Thank you, Mo, for your notes throughout the show. And I wanted to thank you all for letting me be myself.
Do we have that music yet, or is that still irrelevant?